Until very recently at least, Street Fighter 3 was considered the true ending to the events of Street Fighter, that over 25 years functioning as the game that covered the final events in the Street Fighter timeline. We would be introduced to the terrifying bosses, who were said to be more powerful and influential than even the horrifying M.Bison himself. The godlike brothers from the game were unlike any other characters we had been introduced to in the series, and to this day remain amongst the most powerful in the secretive Street Fighter universe. Gill, with his sheer power and mysterious goals, positioned himself as a supreme adversary, symbolising the zenith of human potential and ambition. However, Urien, his younger brother, is no less menacing, driven by insatiable ambition and a ruthless desire for power. Together, they represent the ultimate challenge, not just in raw power, but in the deeper conflict of ambition versus divine right, making them perfect candidates for the role of Street Fighter's most terrifying final bosses. So with that said, join me today as we celebrate their frightening legacies and look back at the bizarre tales of these warring siblings. Hello ladies and gentlemen, Big Daddy Top Hat here. This is the terrifying story of Gill and Urien, the brothers from the secret society, and debatably Street Fighter's true final bosses. Yeah. Street Fighter, Street Fighter, Street Fighter. Don't you just love this franchise? It's just a shame that Street Fighter 6 and other modern fighting games are just so bloody expensive. Fortunately, I can get you nearly 40% off even the Ultimate Edition of the game. Or, if you are just looking for a Season 2 character pass to add the new 4 characters to your roster, I can get you a big discount on that too. Get up to 90% off of thousands of other modern, retro, AAA and indie games too, via following my link in the pinned comments and treating yourself and saving some money today. Happy shopping! In 1997, the long-awaited numbered sequel to Street Fighter 2, known as Street Fighter 3, would finally arrive. The game that carried a subtitle of A New Generation, and it would chronologically occur after the events of the Second World Warrior Tournament, and would feature an almost entirely new roster of characters, with only franchise favourites Ryu and Ken making grand returns. This title, that took place after the death of M.Bison, saw the half-red and half-blue muscled villain Gill appear in his place, the Illuminati's leader who held claims of being the Messiah and the saviour of mankind. This etheric figure can even perform a Jesus Christ-like resurrection technique, which sees him seemingly being able to rise from the dead when he appears to be defeated. While such powers at glance may seem like they were gifted to him from unearthly sources, in reality they are abilities that he has gained due to the use of operations and genetic enhancements that the Illuminati performed on him in order to increase his overall strength and speed. Gill's parents, who were high up within the secret society, subjected both him along with his brother Urien to these genetic experiments, which were combined with a rigorous hand-to-hand combat training program. Through this period, both young men were positioned as potential candidates as the Illuminati's next president, with at the age of 22 Gill being awarded the responsibility, with Urien being written off and overlooked due to being deemed more emotionally unstable than his more mature brother. Urien instead would be declared the organisation's vice president. While comparisons between Gill and Jesus Christ are consistently drawn, Urien on the other hand is often represented as a Judas-like figure, with him first being introduced into the Street Fighter franchise in Street Fighter 3 Second Impact, the second iteration of Street Fighter 3. Speaking of Judas comparisons, in this game he even carries the nickname of the Treacherous Disciple, which further alludes to biblical references. As mentioned earlier, just like his brother Gill, Urien also has a megalomaniacal godlike complex, but even more frighteningly, rather than seeing himself as a bringer of light, or an entity that will bring a golden age to humanity like Gill does, Urien sees himself as more of a Greek or Roman god, the sort of gods that are infamous for their arrogance, who will ruin the lives of mankind if ever they defy them. Gill's design and moves found in Street Fighter III further exude his associations with gods of this era, which is emphasised even more by his Greco-Roman inspired hairstyle and chiselled bronze physique that literally looks like that of a statue of a Greek god. Urien holds many materialistic goals and exploits, with parallels being drawn between his leadership style and that of which can be found amongst leaders in the final days of the Roman Empire. Basically, the entire Roman ethics system had degraded into immorality and degeneracy prior to its collapse, traits that Urien appears to share. Speaking of links to ancient Rome, it is speculated that the name Urien is a misromanization of Julian, a Roman emperor known for his strict rejection of Christianity in favour of Hellenism, matching Urien's motives. While Urien's similarities to the name Julian have been acknowledged, it is also noted that Urien is a real but obscure name from Welsh and Arthurian legend, literally meaning privileged birth, which correlates directly with his parents being high-ranking members of the Illuminati, along with his entitled attitude. Just like Urien, Caligula too was an indulgent, abusive tyrant, one of which literally claimed himself as the human incarnation of Jupiter, the Roman god of sky and thunder. Caligula was so fiendish that there was a point in history where he would forcibly throw a section of a crowd into a pit of carnivorous animals simply for his personal amusement, so I can certainly see the comparisons here. The authoritative and tyrannical individual renounces all noble traits and elements that would normally be associated with leadership, viewing them all as completely worthless. Like many despotic individuals holding positions of power, Urien is extremely distrustful and suspicious of anyone else but himself, with a constant vigilance against insubordination and betrayal to allies and enemies alike. Aware of all the people who he has wronged, Urien obviously holds instinctual fears of possible retaliations, so always has his guard up in an almost Macbeth-like fashion. Urien's sadistic tendencies all partially linked to how he views himself as the secret society's true emperor, rather than his brother Gill, and while he may hold a deep hatred of his sibling, he hates the prophecy that led to him becoming a leader of the Illuminati even more, and as a result seeks the destruction of everything, even the secret society itself. In terms of Urien's actual abilities in combat, Urien can wield lightning and make his body metallic rather than controlling fire and ice like his sibling. Along with being able to shoot electrified spheres, Urien can also perform knee drops, headbutts and charging tackles, which can all potentially shock opponents. Despite his shortcomings compared to the more physically gifted Gill, Urien is still more than powerful enough to completely overwhelm opponents through the constant extreme pressure he puts them under in combat, which is made easier for him through his unconventional moveset, which is difficult for combatants to anticipate. In Street Fighter III, Urien can perform a super art known as the Aegis Reflector, a powerful barrier that can reflect incoming projectiles, or a move known as Temporal Thunder, which allows him to use powerful metallic spheres. In combat, Urien often shouts out phrases such as crush, destroy, and kill while performing his moves. Apart from further highlighting his destructive nature, these phrases also allude to his arrogance and emotional instability. In Urien's debut in Street Fighter III's Second Impact, the game features the fighter trying to stake claim of the Illuminati's presidency, which ultimately sees him challenging Gill to a match to prove his superiority once and for all. In this encounter between the genetically enhanced brothers, Gill intentionally chooses to throw the match, allowing Urien the presidency. Frustratingly for Urien though, he soon learns the truth, and that the presidency mattered little to Gill, as the prophecy had demonstrated that Gill was the rightful emperor, a position that outranked the president within the organisation, a scenario which of course outraged and frustrated Urien to no end. The game would also highlight the G Project, a program that Urien was in charge of that focused on remodeling the human body. This is how the fighter in the game known as Necro would be created from a mutation of a Russian national. In the next game, Street Fighter III Third Strike, the G Project would continue, along with Urien's desire to overthrow Gill, which included the creation of a genetically altered super soldier fighter known as 12. This inhumane program included the kidnapping of many individuals for experimentation purposes, including that of a young girl who was in the care of Chun-Li. This of course leads to the iconic Street Fighter pursuing Urien to rescue her, with him agreeing to let the child go if Chun-Li will fight him for his own personal amusement, with the experienced Chun-Li successfully managing to defeat him. While many of Third Strike's endings are contradictory to one another based on who players complete the game as, if victory is achieved with Urien, it shows him taking leadership of the secret society, destroying the preservation facility where Gill is sleeping, declaring a new era has begun. While the game marked the end of the Street Fighter timeline, more of Urien's backstory would be revealed with his emergence as a DLC character in Street Fighter V. A title that serves as a story prequel to the events of Street Fighter 3 games. In the game's main story mode that involves most of the game's characters known as Shadow Falls, Urien makes multiple appearances throughout this play mode, with it being revealed that he is an opposition force to that of M.Bison Shadowloo, and their plans to wield the Black Moon super weapons. Fellow Secret Society member Helen in the story uses advanced technology to revive Charlie Nash from the dead, in part of a plan to stop Bison. Urien, however, harshly reprimands her for devising plans without his knowledge or consent. Urien ends up mocking Charlie, referring to him as no more than a weak clay doll, and challenges Charlie to a fight, claiming he wants to see if he has what it takes to beat M.Bison. Urien not only defeats Charlie, but sadistically attempts to inflict further pain on him, but is held back by newer Street Fighter character Rashid. Urien angrily unleashes an Aegis Reflector at Rashid for opposing him, but Helen manages to calm him before he leaves, informing them all he'll be watching them all with great amusement. Later on, Urien criticises Helen for her failures when he becomes aware of Charlie's inability to kill Bison, but at the end of Shadow Falls, it is revealed that she has instead been aligned with Urien's brother Gill the whole time. In Street Fighter V, it is of note that Urien trades in his Street Fighter III slightly unsettling, almost naked attire for a more professional business attire as a primary outfit. This major change is said to have been implemented due to American staff working at Capcom finding his original design distracting, particularly during the story mode cutscenes. Back in Street Fighter 3, prior to a fight he would wear a similar outfit, but it would be completely incinerated as he performs a transformation prior to each bout. In Street Fighter 5 he remains fully clothed even in a transformed state, but his more classic attire is also available for more voyeuristic gamers. In combat in this game, Urien maintains many of his attacks from Street Fighter 3, but gains even more moves, including gaining the V skill Metallic Aura, which enhances his special attacks with a hit of armor by covering his skin in metal, while his second V skill Indignant Thunder powers up his metallic spheres to become akin to his Temporal Thunder. Throughout Urien's own Street Fighter V character story, it is revealed at this point that Urien is already working on the G project, with a scene depicting him moaning about a fouled fighter they have created known as 11, alluding to the later creation of 12. 11 ends up being the vessel that is used so that Helen can revive Charlie Nash. An interesting scene also occurs in China, where Urien pays a down payment to Balrog to deliver the data of the Black Moon's operation chains in exchange for his service. Balrog's obsession with money above all else leads to a discussion between the two, with Urien snapping into a rage for being questioned, resulting in the two fighting. Perhaps Urien's most important part in his character development in Street Fighter V occurs within Gill's character story, with Urien watching Gill battle against a mysterious character known as G via a livestream. Upon Gill's victory, Urien furiously destroys the monitor using his fist, with him forcibly ordering Helen, aka Colleen, to bring Gill to him, which she reluctantly agrees to do. The two super athletes end up doing battle, with Gill picking up the win against his unstable brother. This leads to Gill touting the reason for his victory was due to an already written prophecy, with Urien angrily declaring that he will destroy the accursed prophecy, leaving him in a fit of pure rage. That just about rounds up Urien's canonical story as for now, but he has made a few other video game appearances over the years. While Street Fighter 3 characters have received not even close to the amount of cross-promotional love, that of which their more famous Street Fighter 2 counterparts have received, Urien has still popped up here and there. Recently appeared in Tekken, a 2019 free-to-play collectible card game developed by Gung Ho Online Entertainment for iOS and Android devices, and in 2012 he would show up in Street Fighter Cross Mega Man, which was available for free on Capcom Unity. Urien's biggest role though in other video games occurred when he showed up as a playable character in Capcom Fighting Evolution in 2004, the game that saw a crossover between Street Fighter, Darkstalkers and Red Earth, which saw Urien representing Team Street Fighter 3. Hein's ending reveals him ruling over an army of 12 looking super soldiers, who all turn into replicas of himself. All in all though, looking back at his story across the Street Fighter games, Urien is a bitter and twisted individual indeed, with a sense of entitlement and lust for power that altogether makes him one of the most dangerous people in the Street Fighter universe. Sure, his brother and leader of the Illuminati, Gill, is pretty scary with his god complex, but Urien is way more terrifying when we consider that he views himself in the same godly light but has no issues inflicting as much pain and suffering on others as possible. This despotic tyrant is by far one of the most unstable individuals in the franchise, whose cruel and totalitarian nature, combined with his position in the secret society, arguably make him a bigger threat to humanity than even M.Bison. Urien could potentially be the most evil person in the entirety of the Street Fighter timeline. Street Fighter 3 at the time was all we knew about the events that unfolded after Street Fighter 2. A playthrough with most characters in Street Fighter 2 would lead to M.Bison's defeat, and in the most recent iteration of the game prior to the release of Street Fighter 3, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, M.Bison is actually killed in the tournament when he is ambushed by Akuma, a character the franchise would shed a lot more light on in the Street Fighter Alpha games. So bringing all of this into account, M.Bison seemed dead and gone by Street Fighter 2, meaning that Street Fighter 3 required an all-new main villain. So let's talk about who this character is and the concept behind his creation. Street Fighter 3 tells the tale of yet another World Warrior tournament, seeing a few familiar faces return to action, but mostly new ones. This new tournament is hosted by a mysterious secret society headed up by none other than Gill himself. We will talk more about the secret society shortly, but before we get to that, let's cover some of the influence that went into this rather strange looking character's design. Gill's odd appearance is strongly characterised by his unique half red and half blue muscular body, flowing blonde hair, and distractingly small, slightly disturbing underwear. The chiselled physique paired with minimal clothing was a stylistic decision that was chosen to make him somewhat resemble a Greek god. Further to this, the red-blue colour scheme was partially chosen for technical reasons rather than just an artistic choice, in that his asymmetrical colouring was chosen in order to show off the raw capabilities of Capcom's brand new Capcom System 3 board hardware. What I mean by this is, with previous games such as Street Fighter 2 for example, when fighters changed direction their character sprites would merely be flipped, leading to some continuity problems such as Sagat's eye patch swapping eyes every time he turned around. Gill on the other hand was proof that Capcom had managed to get around this issue. Apparently in early design stages, Gill was set to be black and white to represent light and darkness, however he would later be changed to red and blue to not only emphasise Capcom System 3's hardware power, but also to represent Gill's power to control fire and ice with perfect elemental balance. Apart from resembling the Greek gods of antiquity, inspiration for his personality was drawn from various Judeo and Christian sources, with the name Gill being taken from the Hebrew Gilead, meaning eternal joy. Gill sees himself as a Jesus Christ-like figure, claiming to be both the Messiah and the Saviour of mankind. A further nod to Christ is present through one of Gill's combat techniques, known as resurrection, a power that literally allows Gill to resurrect himself and fully restore his health after he has already been taken out of commission. In fact, when pulling this feat off, he even suspends himself in mid-air with both arms outward, evoking imagery of Jesus' crucifixion. In terms of further religious references, a further technique that Gill can wield in battle is taking advantage of his sephiric wings that perform devastating supernatural attacks. various Abrahamic religions describe celestial beings that have 2 or 3 pairs of wings that serve as throne guardians of God. So Gill shares powers with some of the highest ranking beings in the hierarchy of angels. It is not just ancient Greek mythology and the more modern religions that Gill takes inspiration from though, as his long blonde flowing hair resembles that of some of the Norse gods. His ability to wield the power of fire and ice also matches that of the frost and fire giants of Nordic mythology. Further from all of this, if you really want to see some Gill design inspiration, then look no further than František Kupka's illustration of Prometheus, with the flowing blonde hair, chiseled physique and red and blue colour scheme all being present. So that is the design influence and some of the moves and personality traits that were selected for this fighter, but that does still not go far into explaining who this man exactly is and how he headed up a secret society. So let's try to get to the bottom of his story. In Street Fighter 3, Gill is presented as a cult leader. He strives to be a benevolent and compassionate monarch over all of those he rules over. While on the surface often appearing worldly, charismatic and majestic, Gill is in fact a very flawed individual, known for being arrogant, disdainful and manipulative. In fact, he is so confident he knows what is best for all of his followers that he goes as far as to set out draconian rules and ideas that they must all follow and obey. This elitist way of thinking paired with his manipulative tendencies make Gill perhaps the most dangerous man in the whole Street Fighter universe. Gill actively and morally brainwashes others into thinking the same way he does, even at times going as far to take extreme measures such as taking part in kidnappings to coerce others into his faith. In fact, in many ways his secret society is not much different from M.Bison's Shadaloo. Both want to control the planet and both opt to try and do so through hosting World Warrior tournaments to show their strength and lure out their adversaries. Gill is known to often murder completely innocent individuals provided it assists him with reaching his ultimate ambitions. Gill's god complex means that he himself sees no faults or flaws in his wrongdoings, as they are all simple parts of his greater goals that are above a regular human's comprehension. Now, in terms of the supernatural abilities Gill wields, you may be wondering how all of this is possible. Well, the Secret Society itself is a mysterious cult-like organisation that has already existed for just over 2,000 years, with a goal dedicated to saving mankind and building a utopian society. Gill, along with his brother Urien, were born to parents who were dedicated to this organisation, with both parents being powerful enough to have even been candidates for presidency of this cult. Aside from having a high standing within this secret society, Gill's mother was an Olympic level athlete, and his father held a doctorate in sports dynamics. Through his parents' work with the secret society, they would genetically enhance Gill as a child, increasing his strength, speed and other attributes exponentially. In fact, Gill would be one of hundreds of enhanced warriors, including Gill's own brother Urien, all of which were made to participate in intense hand-to-hand combat training on a regular basis. Gill would ultimately surpass all of the competition, including his own brother, who would be left very bitter in the process. According to the Society's religion, the strongest fighter that arose from the training program would be considered the reincarnation of the Society's Emperor, leading to him being appointed as the Society's president at only the age of 22. Across the Street Fighter 3 games, Gill was involved in angles with various characters from the Street Fighter universe, including newcomer British heavyweight boxing champion Dudley. The Secret Society, with their wealth and power, came into the possession of a Jaguar automobile, a family heirloom that originally belonged to Dudley's father. Dudley challenges Gill to a fight in order to have the car returned, which of course Gill agrees to, but offers to return the car anyway, claiming it is petty and insignificant compared to his goals. Prior to the events of Street Fighter 3, Gill would face off against a military martial artist named Tom, who he would beat so badly that he would nearly cripple him in the process. Tom's stepson, Alex, enters the World Warrior tournament to gain revenge, similar to the likes of Guile against M.Bison on behalf of Charlie before him. The story of Street Fighter 3 New Generation culminates in a fight between Alex and Gill, with Alex managing to triumphantly overcome Gill's might. After the battle though, Alex refuses to kill Gill. Now across the 3 Street Fighter 3 titles, New Generation, Second Impact and Third Strike, it does get a tad confusing with regards to what's canon and what isn't, as I guess they never expected idiots like me to try and piece it all together in the future, as after all, these are only fighting games and I guess endings differ depending on who you play as. Second Impact though does introduce new characters into Street Fighter 3 who were not around previously that do impact Gill's story, including the battle against Akuma, who is still travelling the world looking for the world's most powerful opponents. Akuma manages to even kill Gill, but unbeknownst to the wielder of the Dark Hado, Gill was easily able to resurrect himself thanks to his previous DNA engineering. In Third Strike, that appears to take place after the events of a tournament, Urien continues to plot against Gill, even creating an army of super soldier clones known as the G Project for such a purpose. The endings of the game are all over the place, so we are never quite sure what Urien and Gill's true fate are, with Urien's ending depicting him blowing up a facility where Gill is resting, claiming that with Gill gone he is able to reveal the society's dirty secrets. However, Gill's ending features him converting Alex to the secret society, and him leading the entire cast of Street Fighter 3 to paradise via parting the sea, Moses style. With all of this begging the question, is Gill the Messiah or just a very naughty boy? Fortunately, we would gain the opportunity to learn more about this character as the years progressed. Street Fighter 4 and 5 fill in many of the gaps between these games and Street Fighter 2. While Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo ends with Akuma killing M.Bison, the Street Fighter Alpha games revealed that through his convoluted psycho powers and comprehensive cloning programs, he is able to inhibit new bodies following his death, setting up perfectly for his grand return to the franchise in Street Fighter 4, where he takes control of the Shadaloo crime organisation once more. In Street Fighter 5, Bison becomes the biggest threat to the planet as of yet, when he uses his Black Moon super weapon to make himself more powerful than ever before. But through the game's story is ultimately defeated by Ryu, this time for good potentially. Throughout this story, the Illuminati aka Secret Society are actually revealed for the first time. At the start of the game, Guile's old friend Charlie, who had previously died fighting M.Bison in the series, finds himself alive once again, being tended to by a woman known as Helen, who instructs him to find pieces that control the Black Moons and to destroy Bison. After Urien leaves, Helen uses gem technology to heal Charlie and informs him she knows of a more suitable world leader. While this offer never seems to be delivered due to Charlie's demise at the hands of Bison once more, after Ryu defeats the dictator, a scene is shown where it is revealed that the man that Helen was talking about was none other than Gill, and that Helen was actually Colleen from Street Fighter 3, Gill's assistant from the game. It is suggested that while M.Bison is positioned as the main antagonist in many Street Fighter games, that Gill intentionally allowed the creation of Shadaloo as part of his grander plan for world domination, and has full intention to continue to pull the strings as a sort of puppet master, controlling the organisation against its will. However, much to Gill's disdain, the organisation was able to go rogue, which is why Charlie was revived in part of a plan to defeat Bison for good and fully take back control. The events of Street Fighter V led to M.Bison's defeat, but Gill notes that what exactly went down with Ryu did not match his prophecy, and is thus fascinated with what happened. In Gill's prologue, that can also be experienced as part of Street Fighter V, known as The Emperor Doesn't Look Back, he appears with his secretary Colleen once more, this time looking to test a mysterious opponent known as G, who as gamers we still do not know a great deal about yet. Gill is concerned about this man, as apparently his existence is not even mentioned in the prophecy. After a tough battle, Gill still manages to pick up a victory, with G revealing to Gill that we all have one wish, and that is to become one with the Earth, and that G is in fact the president of the world. A playthrough in this mode as Gill ends with a match against Urien, with Gill humiliating his brother in battle, informing him that only he can fulfill the prophecy, bringing Gill's Street Fighter V appearances to a close. His appearances in other video games are restricted to just the terrible fighting game Evolution, where rather than featuring as a playable character, he simply makes an appearance in M.Bison's ending, where the game shows Bison and his fellow Shadaloo operatives defeating him. However, he is of course able to resurrect himself unscathed. In many ways, I guess although he made limited appearances, Gill is by far one of the most intriguing layered characters in the entirety of the Street Fighter story, who actually raises a lot of questions as to what good and evil is in the first place, with many even arguing the case that Gill is not a villain, despite him being the final boss. So to finish this video, I think the best way to conclude today's tale is with a quote from the man himself, with regards to what the public think of him. In Gill's own words, he states, "The ignorant will see it the way that the ignorant wish to see, and the wise will see it the way the wise wish to see. But in the end, when the time comes, everyone will be able to achieve their hopes and dreams, under my guiding hand, with the light of harmony." Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget you can get up to 90% off of thousands of modern, retro, indie and AAA titles including Street Fighter 6 and its seasonal passes simply by using my affiliate links in the description. See you all again soon and cheerio!